Welcome to the Conscious Pivot Podcast with international speaker, business mentor, best-selling author of Pivot, and your host, Adam Markell. The Conscious Pivot shares the stories and wisdom of people who have successfully reinvented some area of their business and personal life. You'll gain powerful insights into how you can fully embrace new opportunities, increase your performance, and master the art and science of innovation and resilience. So please join Adam as he guides you on your conscious pivot.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Conscious Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Markell, and I'm feeling really blessed in this moment to just really be clear in my head. You know, I'm not sure that I'll just stick to myself. I don't feel clear in my head every day. I don't know how you guys feel, but there's so much going on in the world. There's so much noise. There's so many things that just creates complication and confusion, that kind of thing. So I really relish clarity. And for me, I have some rituals and some ways that I go about creating clarity. And when I remember to do those things, of course, then I get this great result that I'm looking for, which is just to be able to be clear. And when I don't do those things, I don't make time for myself. I don't go out on walks. I don't go swim. I'm probably a fish in a prior life for sure. Maybe a dolphin. My kids say that. But when I'm not in and around the water, again, same thing. I get a little fuzzy. And when I am close to the water, as I am now, we're in Maine, in a really beautiful place. And I can look out and see the water. I can be near it. I can go swim or any of those kinds of things. I know that they activate clarity for me. And so my question to all of you as we start what will be a really profound and powerful interview with somebody that you're going to love, and I'm going to introduce her in just a second. My question to you is, what do you do to create, to cultivate, even curate clarity for yourself? What does that look like? Is it writing? Is it doing something physical? Is it meditation? What is that? And if you don't have an answer right away, or at least not one in this moment, maybe mull that over a bit. And if nothing comes to you, then ask the question hypothetically, what could I do? What would it look like if I wanted to be more clear-headed, clear-eyed, for the purposes of making better decisions, for the purposes of just feeling better, all that kind of thing? What could you do to create that level of clarity? And for me, it's sometimes just a breath. Just taking a nice deep breath can do that as well. I have a feeling that the ground that we're going to cover today with Lisa Winston will give us a pause to think about some of these things, and even an opportunity perhaps to learn some new ways to create that kind of clarity by perhaps following our instincts or being able to tune in to those feelings inside that represent truth for us and trust them, etc. So Lisa is a gifted vocalist, international best-selling author, TV host, and an inspirational speaker. Having a life of extreme challenges, including losing her home to a wildfire and surviving breast cancer, made her hungry for a deeper connection to Source and was determined to find her true calling. I can really identify with that. Today, she shares her message that life is always happening for you, and the challenges are sent to refine, not define you. I love that languaging. Lisa co-hosts and produces the Mindset Reset TV show, which reaches millions worldwide, and she's so grateful and blessed to be a person who has a lot of love in her life and has a beautiful daughter and is just living in a way that I think is in alignment. But I don't want to speak for her, so I'll just invite her into the conversation. Lisa, so great to have you with us on the show today. Welcome.
Oh my God. Thank you. My heart is bursting. Everything you said, I was so in alignment with, from the swimming to the intuition to everything. I am like, woo, I'm buzzing. So I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Beautiful. So I read a little bit of your bio there. What's not a part of that bio that you'd love for people to know about you?
I don't even know how to incorporate into my bio the new stuff.
Yeah.
You and I were talking before we started, and my life, when I wrote my book, Your Turning Point, and I had so many miraculous things happen, was right after my first pivot or my turning point, which was the fire and the breast cancer, which really, I left a 36 plus year music career, went on my life purpose path looking for that. And all these amazing, miraculous things happened. But since that time, life has opened up in a bigger way. And, I was telling you earlier that I am a girl who always talks about extreme surrender. I'm learning authenticity at a deeper level, extreme surrender. Well, be careful what you talk about, because the universe will hold you to it. And so, right? I mean, so the last year and a half have been unbelievable. I mean, after I went through my mother dying from cancer and all that and taking care of her, I relocated to Texas because I had met who is now my life partner and soulmate, Dr. Joe Vitale. And everything started opening up from there. My book, my show, all that. But then I got hit, as I told you, with Lyme disease out of the blue. Didn't know I had it in my body and almost died from it. And of course, Joe, I told you, Joe has been going through a horrific 2-year divorce, just never ending. And so that's been very frustrating. And of course, the pandemic and all these things. So, this bigger turning point was coming for me, which is really propelling me in an even deeper, bigger direction than it was before. So I'm going to have to change my bio. I'm not really sure how to do that. But my turning point has gotten even bigger.
So I'll help you to redefine your bio right now.
Well, okay.
We're going to do a little work here. Okay. So what's one thing that you would love for people to know about you that isn't a part of that bio?
That I have an inner fire, which we all have, that goes above and beyond anything that I ever felt was possible. We often get so angry. I think I told you I was really ticked off at God when I came down with Lyme disease. I'm going to go if I leave here right now, I'm going to go poke God in the eye. And it really helped me to live what I teach. And that is that we have everything we need within us. And when times get really tough, you can cry and kick and scream and all that, but you still can make choices. You can find your way by using your tools, your processes, and the support that you have to become more. I love the saying, we're here to, we have to hold more to become more. So we have to go through harder things, bigger challenges to actually become the incredible, magnificent being that we're here to be. And I'm buzzing as I say it.
Right.
So I don't want to brag about myself, but I do want to say that because of my experience, I know that everybody out there who is going through unbelievable challenges right now have the same inner fire, courage, fortitude that I have, and they can get through it.
Right. It's it's interesting you said this using your tools thing. It just brings me back to years of raising kids with my wife Randy, and it was her tendency to tell the kids, use your tools. And so these are life skills, life tools, that kind of thing. So that concept of going back to something fundamental that you could call your toolkit or your, these skill sets, et cetera, I think is really important. So maybe let's define what some of those things are. Because I think when I'm listening to things and I'm a perpetual student and somebody says that, well, use your tools, I'm the one that goes, oh, yeah, well, what tools? Like, which ones specifically should I be using in this moment? Like, so there's a lot of change happening out there, and massive, prolific, pandemic change in our midst. And so we say, go back to using your tools. Maybe let's define a couple of those tools.
Boy, that's a whole nother, I really believe that we're going to get downloads for new processes because I believe some of the old tools are not working in the higher vibrations that we're going into right now. So I'm kind of waiting for those to come through, which will be really cool. But over the years, I've developed so many different things and tried so many things. One of the things that first started me on my spiritual journey many, many years ago was I started practicing Qigong, and Master Chunyi Lin, who I know you interviewed, he's my master. I used to go to Minneapolis and work with him. I spent hours and hours and hours, and he would do energy processes.
I was quoting him earlier today.
Were you?
I was leading somebody through a quick meditation, getting in, breathing into our lower Tantien, and I was
but it's so rich because all the things that I've learned, like with Chunyi, he will teach a process called sword fingers. And so, you know, like I've even done it if I'm at a conference and somebody slams the door, you know, on their finger, I go and I do the sword finger process, pull it out, and like within 30 seconds, they have no pain. So I've really learned along the way. I do everything from tapping to visualization to meditation to Ho'oponopono to, you know, my Qigong things. I've just started doing last year with my Lyme disease, the Lyme disease. I don't know if you've ever heard.
Glad you reframed that. That was
right, because
language is super important. I mean,
it is.
And what's great, I think, I'm gonna pause you for 1 second only because I think it's really great when people see that even those that have been teaching this stuff for years, and we won't say it's a lot of years, but let's say it's a little while, right?
It's a lot of years.
Even those folks, and especially those folks, correct themselves on some of the basics because when you sort of own, like, what do you want to own? You want to own your arthritis? Do you want to own headaches or any number of things that we sort of unconsciously will own with our language versus saying, you know, something that's a little bit more, I guess, true is what comes up for me is that it's not your Lyme. It's unless you want it to be, I suppose.
Right.
So good on you for making that change.
Well, thank you. Well, also it's a commitment. You know, I always tell people to learn to navigate life. You have to learn to master your mindset. You have to actually practice it. And we all fall short, you know, and I think we'll be practicing till we're off the planet. So, but it's, you know, so I remind myself, and I have clients, and when I work with them, I remind myself again.
It was one tool. Let's say one tool is this capacity to reframe, to look at our language, because gosh, there's a lot of reasons to be complaining. Like nobody's going to fault anybody in this moment, in this time, for having a few complaints about what's happened in the world or what's going on. I mean, it's legit, right? I mean, but yet still the power of language, we can't sort of lose sight of it because it's exacting, right? It's the universe either works according to laws and rules or it doesn't, or it's random. I don't believe that the universe is random at all. In fact, so the opposite is, you know, you fall off a roof, you're a good person, you fall off a roof, you die. You know, you're a not so good person, you fall off a roof, same, you know, like the law, it works no matter what. And also somebody once said, whether you believe it or not. So maybe one tool has to be watching your language. What's another tool we could talk about? That's
perfect. By the way, I love that. You know, and you can do other things too. Like I have a dear friend, Mendy Odlin, and she has a book out that's called What If It All Goes Right? And, you know, so I started using her processes way back when I met her, what if, because we do the what if down game, right? What if this doesn't go right? What if I die? What if I lose all my money? You know, what if I'm broke? But you can say, well, what if it all goes right? Like, what if this happens? What if this turns around? You know, playing with why not me? And what if this? I mean, and it sounds so silly almost. But when you start doing it, it really does shift your vibrations. So, you know, you really need to be like a child and just embrace all kinds of things and not be so, you know, stuck in the mud as an adult and say, hey, I mean, because when I had Lyme and I was really in the midst of it, I have to tell you, I did everything from vision boards. I would stand up on the foot of my bed and I had a picture of a microphone with an audience and I would, you know, videotape myself speaking to people. And I was trying to future pace, you know, past the Lyme. I didn't know if I was going to make it or not. So I just really, Donna Eden, I was going to tell you before we talked about the other stuff, Donna Eden has amazing energy tools. I do a lot of energy work, energy medicine. So my toolbox is so big. But, you know,
is that the challenge of just trying to go, well, I have so many, which one should I use?
Yeah, but I mean, you get to, when you have them and you get familiar with them and you practice every day, then you learn how to just, I mean, I have to tell you a really funny story. When I was a band leader for 20 years in San Diego, and I'd go to gigs and every once in a while I'd get a migraine, right? Or you know, and it would be a 10-hour day. I'd have to schlep the gear, you know, perform MC and then tear down and all that. And I remember one time I went into this hotel and I had the worst migraine. I couldn't see. All I saw was flashing lights. I went into the bathroom stall. This is disgusting. I laid on the floor and I practiced some of these Qigong methods, you know, and balancing my energy and doing some other crazy things. And it helped me to actually get through that and go back on stage and perform. So you have to, again, give yourself a lot of different options, practice them. I've done this over the years. I mean, it hasn't just happened, right? So you have to do it. And then you have to practice it. Like if you're driving in your car and you want to do something, do it. Who cares who's looking? Just do it. And then you know what your go-to is when you come across a different situation, you need to use it. So
that's such a good point. I mean, you just not always, you're so putting too much pressure on things sometimes is really, really a challenge because we want simple, we want quick, we want easy. I mean, I think that's part of how we've been sort of altered, which our grandparents probably look at us and go, you guys are just a bunch of wimps. I mean, you're like, how easy do you freaking want things? How instantaneous do you have to have it, right? It's like, or great-great-great-grandparents, they're like laughing, from heaven or whatever, going, what's happened to this world? But the truth is we have been programmed for that. Mm-hmm. And so when something doesn't work right away, I think it's fairly, easy to become a little despondent. And depression and anxiety are on a massive rise. I mean, the charts are, it's like off the charts really. And I think it's in part because the expectation might be that I got to be able to turn something around right away, pivot, like you said earlier, you write a book called Pivot, everything becomes, a pivot or an opportunity.
Right. It is. I mean, and I can reach out for support too. I don't want to, sometimes, I mean, all of us have coaches, mentors, therapists, counselors, et cetera, people that we go to. So I want to make sure that people know there's nothing wrong with reaching out. I mean, that's how we get through so many situations because we don't have the answer. Somebody else has the insight. So it's a great thing to do.
Is your new book the result? Was that birthed out of some of these really difficult experiences?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit too, because I think writing is such a cathartic thing for a lot of people. For me, it's speaking and writing, but more speaking than for sure. So tell us about the book and how it was that came about.
Well, it's interesting because I had written a lot of things prior to writing my book and for over the years. And I just never knew how to put it together. And what I really believe now in hindsight is that it just wasn't time. But when I lost my house to wildfire, like everything was gone, right? I mean, I lost everything in 10 minutes and I had nothing left. So I'm like, I got, all my artwork, everything, because I'm an artist and I do all these things. It's like everything was gone. So anyway, when I, started into my career, and I actually did a book a couple of years ago. It was, one of those compilations. So I actually contributed a story. I hated the story. Like I was so embarrassed after it came out. I'm like, why did I even do that? But I was trying to write a book, do something, get the juices going. So anyway, after I had interviewed Joe on one of my summits back in 2017, and we had an energy between us, but we didn't know what that meant. We didn't talk for another 9 months. Well, after I met him, we didn't even really know why the universe was bringing us together initially. It was like, why are we here? Like, I don't even know. We were just following those synchronistic hits. And so he and I talked about writing my book. And I thought, oh my God, he's got, 70, 80 books or whatever it is. This is a perfect opportunity. Well, he agreed to mentor me. And it was so cool because your turning point, I had gone through so many big things at that point that felt like the theme of my life. And to follow your divine synchronistic hits and inspiration to get to the next step and the next step so you can get where it is you're supposed to be in the moment, right? And so it was wonderful because when I started writing it, that started the process. And so he actually would check in with me and I would share things and ideas and questions. So it's great to have somebody to support you in doing that. But I wrote every morning while I was taking care of my dying mother. I get a cup of coffee, I'd go sit on the sofa and I would start writing. And I literally was just channeling the stuff. And it was so cathartic. It was so amazing because again, I'm writing some other books, but still it has you can write, but if you force yourself, it doesn't come through the right way a lot of times. So sometimes you have to just sit until the right time. And then it's much more, it's done with much more ease. So that's really how it happened. And it was miraculous. And I was so grateful when it was done. And I think it's a really rich book full of amazing things for people. But believe me, there will be a follow-up.
So all this, in this format, we have really, I think, a good set of show notes that always come after our recording. So people that want to find out more about the book, it'll be in the show notes. They can click a link and buy it. But I'd love to have you tell us the name and just give us a little sense of what's the hook. So a person that is thinking they would love an inspirational book to read right now, or something that would help them to work on, develop those tools that we talked about earlier. Is your book able to do that? And, so I'm basically saying it's not a pitch thing right now, but it's more like, I really would love to have people just know more about the book. So please, I'm inviting you to do that.
Gosh, thank you so much. It's called Your Turning Point. I haven't read the little, line below that, but I have it right here in my hands. How to break free from a life of limitation and break through to a life of miracles. And it really is filled. I have actually a companion workbook that goes with it because I channeled so many processes intuitively, because I really believe that that's the foundation, hearing our inner voice and guidance and following that. And if we don't know what that is, then it's, we don't make such great choices a lot of times. But it really is about saying yes to life challenges. It really is about jumping all in. It is about, allowing yourself to be refined, to go through that difficult process and come out. I love transformation. One of my dearest friends, Debbie Silber, who's a coach and a TEDx speaker, also like you, she talks about the process of transformation. You know how we go into a chrysalis and we actually get emulsified in the process. If you're a little butterfly or moth, you go in there.
Pupa stage or the like what 8 stages of the I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it is exactly either, but I just know that if that caterpillar went into that cocoon and said, "Now I'm not doing this. I'm not going through this," well, it would die. So basically it allows itself to just be emulsified, which is kind of what's happening with us right now. We're being unraveled. Our old ways of being, our patterns and habits are being brought up, the shadows. And so when you get to the other side of that, even though it might be painful and messy, because transformation is messy, then you come out on the other side, a beautiful butterfly with your wings. And so it really is my experiences. It has a lot of information about intuition, about beliefs, again, processes that people can work through. But, challenges happen for everybody. And if we believe they're happening to us, then we got the fingers pointing at other people and blaming life. And in reality, I believe, and this is a discussion for another day, that we get to take responsibility for what's happening in our lives. We are not victims, even when it feels like we're not. When it feels like we are victims, we are not. And I've worked with that process quite a bit. And a lot of times it really is just making a choice, even if we don't believe in it.
Right.
So,
yeah. And you mentioned TEDx. So I'm curious, and I haven't looked this up about you. Have you done a TEDx talk? No,
but I'd love to. And I think that it's been, me getting clear about what it is, because I had to have these bigger life experiences. And I'm pretty sure I have the makings of one right now.
For sure. I mean, it's ironic. We started the show off with that concept of clarity, which is interesting, because I think a lot of people don't go down the path of doing something that puts themselves out there on display in public for public everything, judgment, ridicule, praise, and a lot of wonderful things. In part because they don't feel clear. They don't feel clear about what it is they would like to share. If anything, truly, I think we all have things that we want to share and that we want to leave as a legacy to the world. And so I'm going to invite you to actually drop into that for yourself when the time feels right, because you've had, just like all of us, so many really profound experiences that could really be just what's someone else, or maybe many other people, sort of need to know about, need to learn from. Yes. And it's also a funny thing too. I'll call this out, because TED is obviously not the only kind of a high stakes talk you can give. I just like that arena because it's a level playing field. You don't have to pay to play. Right. Meaning, if you're fortunate enough to create a talk, deliver a talk, publish a talk, people all over the world get to view it, and they don't have to pay to see it. You don't have to pay to have them see it. That's when you got a platform of 50 million people or 50 million subscribers to TED. That's a lot of that. That's a lot of people, right? Yeah. So that's what I like about it. But there's this thing about TED too, that it's sort of the subhead is an idea worth spreading. This idea that's worth sharing, in other words. And it begs the question, how does that trigger people's worthiness issues? And that's a lead into a question I'm going to ask you about worthiness, maybe because if you don't feel like there's something that's worth sharing, what does it say? What's going on there? I don't want to try to unpack that. It's just a question. So what do you think about that? Do you think is worthiness still such a big issue in people's lives? Has it been a challenge for you?
Oh yeah. It's huge. I think it's one of the biggest things that hold us back. And the crazy thing is that your story, your life experiences, and there have been some that are way worse than mine, is what really inspires other people when you find the fire to get through it. You rise from the ashes, per se. And that's, people want to know that you're just like them. Mm-hmm. And so I've dealt with it too. I mean, in building my coaching business, it was so hard. And, and then of course, like you said, you get judged and ridiculed. And these days the nutties are coming out of the woodwork. So you don't want to say anything to, rock the boat. But you have to really find your authentic place, like being so comfortable in your own skin. Yes. And not worrying so much about what other people think. Like I've been very blessed in, working with Joe, or being with Joe actually, because we are now speaking internationally, something that I always wanted to do. And it was kind of like I was just handed that on a plate too, in the miraculous process of everything that's been going on. But it scared the ever-loving crap out of me because, in a band, I had 6 people around me.
Right.
But anytime I have to stand there by myself and be on stage, it's like, I just about have a heart attack. So it really is about, feeling that fear and doing it anyway, knowing that your story, what it is that you have to share, is incredibly valuable. And I love the concept of, if we don't speak our truth, if we don't speak what it is that we're here to do, we have all these people who are waiting and who need us, our tribe, our community, and we are ripping people off by hiding in the shadows and playing small. So you have to feel a fear and do it anyway, because fear is, you can look at it as excitement or whatever you want to look at it as. But even Joe, he's been speaking for 35 years internationally. He's still scared every time he gets on a stage, but he goes out and does it anyway.
Yeah, because it's serious. And that's the thing. I was a lawyer for 18 years. And I remember when I was being mentored early on in my practice, I was terrified to get up in court, speak to a judge.
I don't know.
And this man in this older attorney was taking me under his wing, who was really kind of tough with me at times. He just said to me, look, check yourself for a pulse, man, because if you got a pulse, you're going to feel some nerves because, you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel anything.
Right.
Which one do you want? You want to, and who do you want to be? And in any event, I think it's, when it comes to how you deal with other people's, what they think of you. Somebody once said, and I don't remember who this was, but I thought it was great. It's like, in your life, you're going to find there's a third of the people that you meet, they're going to love you no matter what. They just love you. They don't even know why. They just love you. That's it. There's a third of the people hate you. They hate you for no reason. Don't even know why. Don't need a reason. Just can't stomach you. Yeah. And then there's sort of a third that's, they could go either way, perhaps. Maybe you can influence them based on actually who you are, what you do, how you show up. So you get so little control over any of that stuff anyway.
You do. Yeah.
I mean, but if there's something that's inside of you that you want to share, then it ought to, giving it permission, giving yourself permission.
Yeah, and if you don't do it, it's going to eat away at you. I mean, really, for me, it's like I always knew I had a purpose. And I'm 61 years old right now. And it's like, it's taken me a long time to get to where I am now. And I'm still working through it. I'm still nervous when I go to speak. But it's like, I have a message. I have something important to share, and I'm going to do it no matter what it takes. Yeah. And I think that's what you have to do too. Anybody out there.
Fire you're talking about, right? That's that fire in the belly.
I guess it's, I don't know if it's God breathed. Like
you can burn through, right? I'm just thinking you burn through your insecurities.
Yeah. Well, but there are people that are school teachers and stuff, and people that are doing other things that really don't have that desire, that they have a purpose to help children. That's their life purpose or whatever. Everybody has some purpose. But for me, it was like, and I always felt so small, but I always knew I was here for a greater purpose. And when I'd say that, I thought, well, I don't want people to think I'm egoic because I'm not coming from that space. But I always had this incredible drive. And even when I fail over and over and over, which hurt, right? And I get down on myself. I had a lot of coaches and I worked with, a lot of people over the years. I still had this small voice, this belief somewhere inside of me that was like, you got to keep going. You got to do this. And I kept doing it even on days I wanted to quit.
Right.
So
was there a voice of the enemy inside of you as well?
I think it was me. I think it was me not trusting in me afraid of judgment and criticism, me, because as a child, I was told I was too much, shut up and don't be seen, you can be seen, but don't be heard. I think a lot of that just came from my inner critic, which is pretty loud even to this day. So I have to really, reframe a lot and monitor and manage it. And we all have the inner critic, but who's going to win? I mean, we have one life, and in reality, we have one moment at a time, right? I don't know if I'm going to drop dead after this call. I don't know. So it's kind of like, what are you waiting for? Mm-hmm. Because that regret when you leave the planet and you haven't done, and I can't imagine for me leaving the planet, right? Being on my deathbed and not having done what it is that has been driving me my whole life. I mean, I can't even imagine what I'd feel. So it's worth the risk of just going out there. And if you're embarrassed, so be it. If people don't like you, so what? Just do it anyway. Mm. I don't know. Sorry.
How do you define, I'm just feeling like I'm wearing this shirt that says I am resilient, and you're talking in language that I think has a lot to do with resilience. So yes. My question for you is, how do you define it? The word resilience.
Resiliency is just this beautiful ability to navigate life, to fall down and get back up no matter what happens and start again. It's just this power inside of you that allows you to keep moving forward no matter what. And I love it because even when I say resiliency, it's this flexibility, it's this movement, it's this beautiful thing that happens. It's a dance. And I'm getting chills as I speak it because I think that's what a lot of us really need to align with. It's not really, like some people say, grow a set of balls or whatever, the masculine kind of feel. But resiliency doesn't feel to me like it's all masculine. Again, it's a flowing kind of thing. It's a bending. It's kind of like, being a tree and a hurricane comes and the trunk is, solid, but the branches are moving back and forth. But you get through the storm and you're really unscathed.
Yes. The willow tree.
Yeah.
Way of being.
Right.
Do you have rituals? I mean, this is something I know a lot of people love about this show, as we talk about the specific things that we each do or try doing anyway. Sometimes we try things on, they don't always feel great, so we stop doing them. But there's some things that really have stuck with me over years. What are some of the things that you've done to build that resilience inside of you?
That's beautiful.
Whether you call them rituals or habits, it's
well, kinda... I mean, me too. I'm still trying to, I have a couple that I keep and a couple that I'm trying to add to. I love to use gratitude, because gratitude, even when you don't feel it, when you start doing it and just saying you're going to do it, it really does build this vibration, this energy within you. I meditate very infrequently. When I worked with Master Lin, I was doing 3 hours a day, and I'm like, I can't do 3 hours a day every day, right? So sometimes I do Joe Dispenza's meditations. I love those, to really try to align with zero and be a nobody, nothing. I also,
get to neutral.
Yeah, get to neutral, right? I also really love Ho'oponopono. I swim like you do, like every day. I have to be in the water. I'm a Pisces, like a 4 times Pisces. So when I'm just
what day in March or in February?
I'm February, right?
You are.
And I mean, I just do, you probably do this too. I repeat the 4 phrases. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, as I'm moving through the water, because my mind is very active. Everybody's is. And my mind always is trying to tell me something that wants, to keep me safe or prepare me. And so there's a point where I have to say, stop, like just stop. And if I have to, I do things like Ho'oponopono or the what if up, what if it goes all right, or whatever is kind of like a pattern interrupt for my brain to just tell it to be quiet. So I just do a lot of little things throughout the day. I do my energy work every day. I do a 10-minute energy routine. So I try to align myself, my energy, ground and center, protect, and those kind of things every day.
Yes. Forgiveness is a practice. We don't talk about it that much. And
Yeah.
And I don't even mean, the obvious stuff like the forgiveness that, we have holding on to old hurts and angers. That's, I think, more obvious, at least, people have heard it before. I mean, just the opportunity to forgive sort of indiscriminately without any kind of reason. Just your shit, the stuff in you that you can forgive that you can't even put a name to or describe, and the stuff that's all around us that you can put some names to, and they're usually pretty gnarly names, right? Because they're all laced with judgment and other stuff. But to be able to forgive sort of, without qualification, without distinction, each of, so you think, because Ho'oponopono is for people that don't know, it's from the Hawaiian Huna practice for forgiveness. So will you say the 4 things again for people that aren't familiar with that?
Yeah, you can say them in any order you want to, but I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. And it really is a process of freeing yourself from, it has nothing to do with anybody else. It was a very weird concept to me at first because I was always doing these forgiveness practices like my ex-husband, put him in front of you and, send him love. And I'm like, that doesn't work. I'm not loving him, So it really is it's between you and the divine. And again, it's about getting back to neutral, zero, getting back to that white space and again, it's about asking for forgiveness for your perceptions, because gosh, when you look in the world around us, Adam, right now, it's so funny because I always look at the comments and the people that are in pain and the people are angry and the people, it's just these giant pissing matches about everything, right? Wear a mask, don't wear a mask. And it's so crazy. But so it's kind of like, but then you got to really look at yourself. It's like, well, how am I part of this? What is my piece in this? Because we all think we're right and we all think that our way is the right way, but not necessarily. We're all wearing our own rose-colored glasses, so our perceptions are skewed too. So it really is about, please forgive me for my incorrect perceptions, help me to align with the truth, and it is a really freeing practice. It really is. And it puts forgiveness in a whole new light.
I agree.
The old way doesn't work.
At least for me anyway, I don't need to be very specific either. That's the thing too, is, I can find a lot of stuff that I could just ask for forgiveness from my own behavior,
Yeah, too.
Just today, yesterday, I don't have to search
right.
too far behind, but I think it's been helpful for me. And this is very personal, but in the evening, right before I'm in bed, or even sometimes if I wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes I just go, okay, my mind can turn on. I don't want it to turn on. I want to be in sleep. Resilience for me also means getting a proper amount of rest and that kind of thing. And so I'll sometimes just say, thank you. Thank you for forgiving me for anything. Thank you for forgiving all of my brothers and sisters on the planet at this moment for anything. Everything, anything and everything can be forgiven. I can't think of a thing. And again, this may be controversial for some people who've been hurt, and I've been hurt. So it's not like I don't understand what hurt or betrayal or any of those things feels like. And pain is pain too. I think it's very difficult to compare your hurt and your pain to someone else's.
Right.
Pain feels like pain.
Right.
If you've lost a child, I can't imagine a greater pain, and yet it's still pain. And it's how you carry it and for how long and what you do with it and all the rest. All those things are common to that as they are to the loss of a job or any number of other things that might cause you pain. And all of that's just up for forgiveness.
Yes.
It's really a wonderful and even a miracle thing. It's, I think Emmett Fox called it the magic key.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the magic key, or something that is miraculous even. So in any event, I'm really thrilled that we've had the chance to talk today.
Is it over already?
Oh my God. Well, would you like to say anything else? Please, the floor is yours.
No, I just want to let everybody know out there that you are magnificent, brilliant, beings of light and love, and you all have within you whatever it is that you are looking for, whatever you need, that love. When you connect to the divine that is the love that you are, when you have moments of just sitting in divine connection, and that's a practice too. It is a love that you have never experienced, and that is who you are. So you have everything you need within you. It's just a matter of cultivating it and sticking with it until you can. And believe me, I'm still working it too. It's a lifelong practice, but